Have you ever felt like the ghosts of your bad actions and decisions keep haunting you? Have you ever felt like you have to continue to be a slave to the bad reputation that you made? Have you ever felt like no matter how much you say sorry, you still feel like you're not getting anywhere and that you are still the same terrible person you used to be? Well, the last question I have is, have you forgiven yourself? This past week, we talked about forgiveness. On the Motivation Monday, we talked about how if you do not forgive, somehow it freezes you in that moment, and it's hard for you to live past that. It's hard for you to move past that. And we focused on forgiving others and events. But this podcast coming up is talking about you forgiving yourself and the importance of you forgiving yourself. And so I ask you, are you haunted? Have you forgiven yourself? If you're wondering these same things, I invite you to please check out my podcast, Thursday Thoughts, to see if it can help encourage you and to set you free from your ghosts. I'm Rick Roberts, and you stay classy. Bye. Hey peeps, I'm Rick Roberts, and this is Rick Roberts Life, the podcast where we talk about my faith, my thoughts, my life. And today is Thursday Thoughts, and my thought for you today is, have you forgiven yourself? Now, the reason why I bring this topic up today is because this whole week we've been looking at forgiveness. Over the weekend we looked at anger. And as I reflect on my life, there are certain things that I've done that I'm not the proudest of. There are certain mistakes that I've made, some poor decisions that I've made, and the outcome of that I'm still living with today. And so what I've come to learn is that there's a cause and then there's effect. Now, when you do something, it's going to affect something else. For some reason, when you're young, you don't really quite grasp that concept. You think you get it, but you don't quite get it until you actually do things and you see the results of that. And so, as I'm talking to you today, I know that there are some of you who are out there who have made some poor decisions, who feel regret, who feel, like they're being haunted by their actions and by their poor choices. And the best thing you can do is realize is that your actions don't define who you are. They kind of reveal what's going on with your character on the inside. And same thing with your decisions. Sometimes you could be a great person, but you make a terrible decision. And that doesn't mean that you are necessarily a terrible person. It just shows you and reveals to you what your character's like in that particular moment. And the thing that really says a lot about you is, how do you respond to that bad decision? How do you respond to the effects of what you chose to do? And so as you are living your life, you're going to hear your insecurities, you're going to hear the whispers of negativity remind you of all the bad things you've done, of all the bad choices you've made. And sometimes it's not just the whispers of insecurities and negativity, it's actual people who will tell you and remind you of the stupid things you've done. Sometimes when we do things that cause pain to other people, we need to keep in mind that we've hurt them and that they need to have their time to be able to process what's gone on in their life and how they can move forward too. It's very easy for us to kind of just focus on ourselves and say, you know what, that happened, a year ago, that happened 6 months ago. They need to get over it. I want you to give them their respect. We cannot demand someone change, because even though we demand it, it doesn't mean that they're gonna change. What we can do is encourage them to see that there's love there, to encourage them to know that we've messed up, we are sorry, and that we are doing our best to reconcile what we did wrong and to not make that same mistake again. Or to show them that even though we did what we did out of love, our intention wasn't to hurt. Our intention was to do good, but we didn't know a better way, or we couldn't perceive a better way in that moment. And so we have to give them space to be able to grow, to be able to go through what they're going through, and to be able to come to a conclusion with that pain, because, we've wronged them, we've hurt them. The thing I find very interesting about consequences, about cause and effect, about when we make a decision or do a bad thing, that we have to be able to go on living with this. There's a story in the Bible, in Deuteronomy. It talks about how when Moses was leading the people to the promised land from Egypt, there came a point where everyone started to grumble and moan and started to say, oh, at least when we were in Egypt, we had this. Now we're out here in the desert and, we have all these problems. And they started to really blame and grumble at Moses. And God got fed up. And so God sent a bunch of poisonous snakes to come by and bite people. And a lot of people died. And so that's why I try to make sure that I don't grumble or moan, not because I'm afraid I'm going to get bit by a snake, but because it's not a good characteristic to have, to be a person that's groaning and moaning and complaining all the time. We need to learn to be thankful. And so Moses pleaded with God. And he said, Lord, please forgive these people. Send away the snakes. And God said, you know what? I do forgive them, but I'm not going to send away the snakes. And so God had them do this symbol where it was a snake on a stick, where whenever someone got bit, they wouldn't die, but they still had to live with the sting of their bad decision. And so that's part of life. We can be as sorry as we want to be. We can be as repentant as we want to be, meaning that we want to turn away from that. But sometimes we still have to live with the sting of that bad choice. But it's not going to kill us. We can get through it. We can continue to live our lives. And so I say that to hopefully encourage you that even though you're living with the sting of your bad decision, of your bad action, doesn't mean that it will destroy you. You can still live a powerful and promising life. Continue to keep your head up and to continue to keep moving forward. The great thing about forgiving ourselves is not just the fact that we learn to let go of all the bad things that we've done, but when we see someone repeating our mistakes, doing bad things, making poor choices, we're then in a position where we can relate and understand that that person may not know the best way to live their life. They may sincerely want to do the right thing, but they're just in a bad moment, in a bad way, lacking the education. Or sometimes people are deliberate in what they're doing, but they too will come to a point where they will want to change their life and be a better person. And when we see these people, when we come across these people, we're then able to forgive them and to guide them into the right thing to do because we ourselves lived it. And so hopefully your story, your life experience will be able to help inspire and change someone else's life for the better as they figure out how can they cope with, how can they live with the things that they've done. You can then talk to them and say, look, I've been there. I've made this mistake. I'm not perfect. I may look like I have it together now, but you should have seen me when I was younger. I was a mess. But now I'm a little bit better. So you can grow, you can change too. You're not hopeless. And so that's the hope, is that our lives, that we can change and inspire others through our difficulties, through our scars. Your scars are beautiful. You are beautiful. So continue to keep walking and moving forward. So please stop letting this thing hang over your head. Please stop feeling as though you're a failure, that you can't do anything right, that you're a terrible, disgusting person, because God has forgiven you. God loves you, and He wants to continue to bring you through the things that you need to get through so that way you can reach your destination. Okay? Have your head up high. Walk with that smile. Walk knowing that each and every day you're growing. I'm Rick Roberts, and you stay classy. Bye.